I've never told anyone about this warehouse. Not my daughter, not friends, not relatives. I kept it quiet because I learned a long time ago. Once money is exposed, people reveal themselves too. That night, I showed up unannounced. No schedule. No warning. Just me and my key. But the moment I turned into the lot, my stomach dropped. The door was slightly open. A dim light glowed inside, and there was someone standing in there, like they belonged. I walked faster and called out, "Who's in there?" The figure turned. My son-in-law. Kyle. He didn't flinch. He smiled, like he'd been expecting me. "Dad, I was just checking on the place for you." I froze, because I had never told him this place existed. And yet he wasn't just aware of it, he was here before me. I shut the door behind me and stepped inside, scanning everything out of instinct. The inventory was still there, the shelves untouched, but something felt off, like someone had handled something they weren't supposed to. I went straight to the corner where I kept the most important thing, a small box wrapped in black tape, always hidden beneath the third shelf. I pulled it out. Still there, but lighter. I opened it. Empty. What was missing wasn't inventory. Not cash. It was the one thing that could destroy an entire family if it fell into the wrong hands. A USB drive. I looked up at Kyle. My voice turned cold, sharp. "How long have you been in here? And what did you take?" Kyle kept smiling, but his eyes weren't smiling anymore. This wasn't some movie-style vault full of gold. This warehouse was my last line of defense, built quietly over nearly 20 years. Equipment, inventory, spare parts, only people in the trade would value correctly. And most importantly, documents, copies of contracts, insurance, asset records, and a small USB. Inside it, financial data, scanned documents, backup passwords, and a few files labeled for one purpose only: if anything ever happens. Insurance. Not for money, but for people. My daughter, my grandchild. I never told my daughter about any of this. She's kind. And kind. People get pulled. And her husband Kyle, I'd always sensed something off. The kind of man who asks about assets more than he asks if you're doing okay. Still, I trusted one thing. No one knew about this place. I didn't save the address. I didn't share routes. I moved like habit, not like a man with something to hide. And yet Kyle was standing inside, which meant only 3 possibilities. He followed me. He had someone feeding him information, or he got access key, code, something, and now the USB was gone. So this wasn't curiosity. This was a targeted move. Kyle kept acting. "Dad, you're thinking too much." "I was just worried." I cut him off. "Worried enough to open the exact box with the USB? What kind of worry? Knows exactly where I hide things." He paused. Just one beat. But that one beat told me everything. This wasn't the first time he'd been here. I scanned the warehouse again. A few boxes slightly shifted. Fresh shoe prints in the dust. Someone had been moving inside my space, touching things that were never meant to be touched. And the USB? That was just the first thing I noticed. I locked it in my mind right there. Tonight wasn't about losing an item. Tonight was the moment the game changed. Because Kyle wasn't working alone. I didn't yell. I didn't slam anything. I did one thing. I stepped out, pulled the door shut, locked it from the outside, and slipped the key into my pocket. Kyle frowned. "Dad, what are you doing?" I looked straight at him. "I'm not letting you walk out with whatever you just took." He switched instantly, victim mode. "You're accusing me?" I was just checking security. I stepped closer. Slow. Controlled. "If you were checking security, you'd call me. You wouldn't be here before me. And you definitely wouldn't know exactly where the USB was hidden." That hit. He froze for a split second. Then his eyes started moving left, right, like a man calculating exits. I asked, "How did you get in?" He shrugged, trying to stay casual. "Come on, Dad. You probably forgot. You asked me to." I cut him off, sharp. I never did. I pulled out my phone, turned on the recorder, and held it steady. "Give the USB back. Now." I walk away. "Don't." And I go straight legal. He swallowed. You could see at that moment where bluff meets risk. Then he pushed. "Why are you even holding on to all that stuff? You're getting older. If something happens, who's going to take care of Mia?" There it was. Not concern. Positioning. He wasn't asking. He was trying to insert himself as the one in control. I didn't hesitate. "Not you." That landed harder than anything else. He looked at me, not shocked anymore, not confused, angry, because now he understood something. The door wasn't just locked physically. I had just locked him out of the narrative. No chance to twist the story first. No chance to get ahead. I opened the door and stepped aside, but before he walked out, I gave him one clean line. "From now on, you don't come near this place again. And as of tonight, you just made yourself a suspect." He left, still holding on to whatever image of control he had left. And I stood there alone, staring at that empty box. Here's the truth most people miss, and you shouldn't. When someone takes data instead of money, they're not stealing, they're preparing. And that means this isn't the hit. This is the setup. I stayed in the warehouse alone. No panic. No rushing. I checked it the way someone does after decades in business. Not every screw, not every box, just the critical points. The places that matter if something goes wrong. The small safe? Untouched. Large inventory? Still there. Heavy equipment? Didn't move. But the document section, that's where it broke. I pulled out the box labeled Documents. Inside, one stack sat slightly off, just enough to tell a trained eye it had been handled. Pulled out, flipped through, shoved back in a hurry. I didn't need to read a single page. I already knew. This wasn't about stealing goods. This was about information. And the USB? That was the center of it all. If someone had that USB, they didn't just have files. They had access. They could map my accounts, trace my assets, find where everything is stored. And most dangerous of all, they could find my weak points. I took photos. Everything. 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 The empty box. The shoe prints. The shifted crate. The disturbed dust. I don't trust feelings. I trust evidence. Then I called Rick. Just one line. "Kyle was in my warehouse before me. The USB is gone." Rick went quiet for a second. Then his voice came back, tight and clear. "Don't go home yet. Lock the warehouse, change the locks, and pull the access logs." That hit, because Rick thinks in patterns, not moments. And in his world, this wasn't random. This was a move in a sequence. I called the facility manager, asked for entry logs and hallway cameras. They hesitated. Only the owner can request that. I didn't raise my voice. I am the owner. While I waited, one thought kept looping in my head. Kyle knew exactly where the USB was. That means one of two things. He's been here before, or someone showed him. And if there's an insider, then the USB isn't the prize. It's the hook, the thing they use to pull me into something bigger. That night, I didn't fear losing money. Money can be rebuilt. What I feared was losing control. Because once someone uses your own documents against you, you don't just lose assets. You lose ground. And getting it back? That's not business anymore. That's war. The next morning, I went straight to the facility office. No hesitation. No delay. I brought everything: lease agreement, ID, proof of ownership. I didn't ask casually. I requested access, like a man who already knows something is wrong. The manager pulled up the logs, and the moment I saw them, my stomach dropped. There were entries, door openings at times I was never there. On. Kirk. PM. Early mornings. Random slots that didn't match my routine. No names listed. But cameras don't lie. They pulled the footage. Kyle. Clear. No doubt. Not once. 4 times. In 2 weeks. I didn't react. Not outwardly. But inside? That was the real hit. Because betrayal doesn't hurt at the moment you catch it. It hits when you realize, while you thought something was locked down, controlled, protected, someone else was walking in like they owned it. I asked the manager, who has access to this unit? They gave me the standard answer. Only the contract holder or someone authorized by the owner. I never authorized anyone, so now the situation narrowed fast. Either Kyle copied my key, or someone inside sold him access. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people ignore. If someone inside is selling access, you're not the only target. That means my warehouse wasn't just compromised. It was exposed. I stepped outside and looked back at it. For the first time, it didn't feel like a safe place. It felt like a liability, a hotspot, a place people were already watching. Rick called. Got the logs? I did. He's been in multiple times. Rick didn't hesitate. Then the USB wasn't an accident. That was the objective. Exactly. And that's when the bigger picture locked in. Kyle didn't break in to steal. He broke in to prepare. And whatever he's planning to do with that USB, it's not small. So now you've got a choice point, and this is where most people mess up. You react emotionally. Confront him again. And he deletes, hides, resets, or you go quiet. You track. You let him believe he's ahead, right until he uses that USB. Because that moment, that's when you catch not just theft, but intent. I sat down with Dana and Rick and laid everything out clean, precise, no emotion, just facts. Kyle accessed the warehouse multiple times. The USB is gone. Documents were disturbed. Dana asked the one question that actually matters. Is there anything on that USB that could be used to forge documents or move assets? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Scanned documents, account details, insurance files, backup passwords. Enough to do real damage if it's in the wrong hands. Dana didn't waste a second. Then you treat this like an active financial attack. Right now. Change everything. So I did. Passwords changed. 2FA enabled everywhere. Email recovery locked down. Banks called. Alerts activated for any large transactions. No delay. No, I'll do it later. Because this isn't theory anymore. This is defense. Rick took a different angle. If Kyle took the USB, he's not going to sit on it. People who steal data don't collect it, they use it. Fast, Dana nodded. Or he uses it to pressure you. Dad, just sign this. I'll handle things. I let out a dry laugh. That's exactly Kyle's style. Wrap control in the language of helping family. Make you feel like you're the problem if you don't hand over authority. But here's the shift. And this is where you played it right. You didn't go back to argue. You didn't confront again. You changed the game. Because arguing with someone like Kyle, that just gives him time to clean up. What you're doing instead, you're setting a trap. And it's a smart one. Because holding a USB, he can lie. I found it. I was keeping it safe. But the moment he uses it, logs in, moves money, touches accounts, attempts a transfer or a sale, that's no longer a story. That's evidence. And evidence doesn't argue. It ends things. So now the board is clear. The USB being taken? That's not the attack. That's the setup. The real move is coming. And you're thinking about this exactly the right way. 24 to 72 hours. That's the window where people like Kyle make their mistake. So don't rush now. Stay quiet. Stay sharp. Because the next move he makes, that's the one that decides everything. Rick said it straight. We need him to expose himself. Dana added the constraint. And we need it to hold up legally. So you didn't chase. You built a trap. A clean one. A decoy account. A decoy drive. Something believable. Something tempting. Files with names like warehouse inventory plus sale options. Insurance payout. Not random bait. Targeted bait. You placed it exactly where Kyle would feel confident reaching an old secondary email he'd peeked at before, or a file that looked like it had been recovered from the missing USB. That detail right there, that's what makes this work. Because in his mind, he's not hacking, he's reclaiming access. And that's when people get careless. You sent him a soft message that night. Kyle, I might have overreacted yesterday. If you picked something up by mistake, just return it. I don't want this to escalate. He replied fast. No, Dad, I didn't take anything. Too fast. And here's the truth. People who are clean don't rush to deny. People who are hiding something do. Rick smiled when you told him. He'll try tonight. And he was right. 1:32 a.m. 2 failed login attempts. Then success. You checked the logs. Unknown device. IP. Near Kyle's place. That's the moment everything shifted. Because now, this isn't suspicion anymore. This is digital fingerprints. He didn't just take something. He acted on it. And acting leaves trails. Listen, this is the part where most people mess up. They feel the rush. They confront too early. They show their hand. Don't. You've got him moving exactly how you want. Now the goal is simple. Let him go one step further. One more action. Something irreversible. Because right now, you have access. Soon, you want intent plus action plus pattern. That's when it stops being a family issue and becomes a case. You didn't just react. You took control of the board. Now stay patient. He's already halfway into his own trap. On the second night after the USB disappeared, the warehouse camera triggered again. 2:05 a.m. The side door rattled slightly. A faint metallic scrape. Click. Click. Like someone working a lock they weren't supposed to touch. I pulled up the feed. Kyle. He didn't go in right away. He stood outside, scanning the area, waiting. For what? Or for who? I didn't know. Then he unlocked the door, walked in, and disappeared into the dark. A flashlight beam cut through the silence, sliding across shelves, boxes, dust. The entire warehouse felt still. Too still. This wasn't horror, because I knew exactly what this was. A man coming back to clean up, or to take what he missed. Kyle moved with purpose. Straight to the file section. No hesitation. He crouched down at the exact spot where the USB box used to be. Opened it. Empty. He froze there for a second. Not confused checking. Confirming. Then he stood up and moved to the documents crate. Opened it. Flipped through quickly. And pulled out a thin envelope. Slid it inside his jacket. That's when it clicked. He wasn't just stealing anymore. He was building something. Something that needed both the data from the USB and physical documents to back it up. My hand tightened, because now I could see the direction clearly. This wasn't random. This was preparation. Rick texted, "Don't go there. Record everything." So I did. Saved the footage. Because now I had both sides. Kyle accessing the bait account. Kyle returning to the warehouse. Taking documents. That's not curiosity. That's a pattern. And patterns, they don't lie. The bigger loop was no longer a theory. It was forming, piece by piece. He's getting ready to sell something, or borrow against it, or move assets using both digital and physical proof. And once he makes that move, that's when the trap closes. The next morning, I asked Kyle to come over. My daughter was there too. I didn't want a private conversation. I wanted the truth. Kyle walked in, polite as always. "Dad, You wanted to see me? I didn't answer right away. I placed two things on the table. The footage of him entering the warehouse the second night, the login logs from the decoy account. Kyle looked down, and his face drained. First instinct attack. You were spying on me? I didn't raise my voice. I was monitoring my property. My daughter's voice shook. Why were you in Dad's warehouse at 2 a.m.? Kyle looked at her, then at me. Calculating, trying to build a story fast enough to survive. I was just checking. I was worried someone might break in. I let out a cold laugh. The thief is you. That hit him. And right there he cracked. Not fully, but enough. Why are you even holding on to all that stuff? He snapped. You're getting old. I was just trying to manage things for the family. There it was. Not concern. Control. Wrapped in the word family. I leaned forward slightly. You manage it by stealing my USB. Silence. Heavy. Final. My daughter broke. Not because of the warehouse. Not because of the money. But because she understood something deeper. Her husband wasn't protecting the family. He was using the word family to justify taking from it. And that's the real betrayal. And now the full picture is clear. Kyle didn't just take the USB. He's building a move. A deal. Something fast. Something that uses both data and documents to turn into money. Quick. Before anyone can stop him. And here's the truth you're sitting on now. You don't just have proof of theft. You have proof of intent. And that's the difference between a family argument and something that can end him completely. Rick tailed Kyle after the confrontation. By that same afternoon, Kyle met a man at a bar. Not casual, not friendly, business. Rick kept his distance, but close enough. Kyle pulled out his phone, showed him something. The man leaned in, looked carefully. Then, an envelope changed hands. Rick got the shot, zoomed in just enough. On Kyle's screen was a list of files. Not random files. The exact same structure. The same naming pattern as the folders inside my missing USB. That's when it locked in. Kyle wasn't just holding the USB. He was using it, selling access, or leveraging it for money. Dana didn't even pause when I told her. If he's selling asset data, there's always a next step. She laid it out clean. Someone will come verify. Either they visit the warehouse, or they contact you directly with an offer. And right on cue. That night, my phone rang. Unknown number. A man's voice. You're looking to liquidate the warehouse, right? I heard you've got inventory. At a good price. Prater. I smiled. Not because it was funny. Because it was confirmation. I'm not liquidating anything. Who told you that? Silence. A short one. Then, Kyle did. And just like that, the entire loop closed. The USB disappears. The data gets accessed. A third party enters. And now, the assets are being priced behind my back. This isn't suspicion anymore. This is a full chain. Action, intent, transaction. And here's the real shift. The one most people miss. Kyle didn't just cross a line. He built a pipeline. From your private system to someone else's money. And once that pipeline exists, if you don't shut it down properly, it doesn't stop. It scales. Now you're not dealing with a problem. You're dealing with a system someone created to drain you. So the question isn't, is he guilty? That's already answered. The real question is, do you shut this down quietly, or do you end it in a way he can never rebuild it again? Dana said, don't shut it down yet. Set the meeting. Catch Kyle in the act. So I texted him, if you need to make a move, talk to me. Don't drag strangers into this. Kyle replied, don't worry, Dad. I'll handle it. That phrase, I'll handle it, is the language of someone trying to take control. So, I set the trap. I agreed to meet the buyer at the warehouse at 3 p.m. The facility manager would be there as a witness. Rick would be recording. Dana stayed just out of sight. A few minutes before 3, Kyle showed up with the buyer, and he walked ahead of him confident. relaxed, like he owned the place. Then he said it. This is the family warehouse. My father-in-law is older, so I'm handling things for him. That's when I stepped out from inside the unit and said one sentence. Handling what? I never signed anything. What? Kyle froze. The buyer froze too. Then the facility manager spoke up and confirmed it. Only the contract holder had authority to make any decision about the unit. Kyle tried to recover, tried to speak, tried to patch a lie together. Too late. I looked at him, right there in front of everyone, and asked, "Where's my USB?" His face drained. He took one step back. And that was the moment the buyer understood the truth. Kyle was trying to sell property that wasn't his to sell. That's when the whole loop closed for everyone watching. Because the thing that had been stolen wasn't just the USB, it was the plan behind it. Dana documented everything with the facility manager. Kyle had brought a stranger onto the property, claimed he was acting as my representative, and had no authorization to do so. I issued formal notice banning Kyle from coming near the warehouse again. Rick handled the data side. Since Kyle had already used the USB, we demanded that he return it. If he didn't, we were prepared to pursue it as theft and unauthorized access to private data, depending on the legal path available. I changed everything: warehouse locks, safe codes, every password connected to the data that had been on that USB. I also removed every sensitive document from the unit. My daughter looked at me and said, "Dad, I can't believe this." I told her, "You weren't wrong for trusting him. You'd be wrong if you kept trusting him after seeing the proof." Kyle still tried to play the victim. I did it for the family. But family doesn't steal a USB and call it love. The assets were still there, but something else had fallen. Trust. My daughter looked at Kyle like she was seeing a stranger. And the truth is, strangers are easier. Because when a stranger hurts you, it makes sense. But when it's someone you called family, that's what cuts deep. I didn't wait for things to collapse again. I set up a trust, a structure that made sure no matter what happens, the future of my daughter and my grandchild would never fall into the hands of a man who lives on shortcuts. I didn't just protect assets. I removed access. Kyle lost his path to fast money. And the moment he lost it, he showed exactly who he was. Angry, blaming, calling me controlling. But here's something most people need to hear. Greedy people always call boundaries control. The moment you stop feeding them, my daughter started to wake up. She looked at me and said, "He's not sorry for what he did. He's sorry he got caught." That's the line that matters. Because once you see that clearly, there's no going back. At first, I thought losing the USB was the end. It wasn't. Losing one thing at the right place doesn't close the story. It opens it. Because when something that precise goes missing, it's never just about the item. It's about the network behind it. Who got into the warehouse? Who had access? Who bought the information? And who's really standing behind it all? So let me ask you, if you found out your son-in-law was inside your warehouse before you, and the most important thing was gone, what would you do? Confront him immediately, and give him time to delete everything, clean the trail, reset the game, or stay cold? Set the trap, follow the logs, wait for him to use what he stole, and let the evidence end him? I chose evidence, because money? You can make it back. But the moment someone takes control of your life through documents, through data, you're not just losing money, you're losing leverage. And once that's gone, you don't just rebuild, you fight to get your life back.